An island 400 years old, built on a swamp, burned down twice, bankrupt once, attacked from the air once. And it is still, right now, the richest city on the face of the earth. Every single generation tried to kill this place. Fire tried, war tried, riots tried, money running out tried, terror tried. None of it worked. Not once. This is the full story of how New York refused to stay down, and the parts of it nobody puts in the textbooks. Before skyscrapers, before streets, this was just an island covered in forest, wrapped in water, home to the Lenape people for something like 13,000 years. They knew every hill and every current. Broadway, the one street that still cuts through Manhattan at a strange angle, ignoring the grid around it. That was a Lenape trail first. Then in the early 1600s, a Dutch ship showed up chasing something strange, beaver fur. Europe had gone mad for felt hats, and the beavers back home were almost wiped out. Word came back that this river valley was full of them. Within a couple of decades, the Dutch had a permanent outpost at the tip of the island. Here's the part most people skip. In the mid-1620s, a Dutch official supposedly bought the whole island for a small pile of goods. Some accounts say the value of 60 guilders. But the group he made that deal with didn't even live on Manhattan. They were based across the water. The people who actually lived there never agreed to sell anything. Two sides walked away from the same conversation thinking they'd won. That misunderstanding didn't stay quiet. Within 20 years, it turned into open war. Villages burned. Over 1,000 Lenape and allied people killed, the colony nearly collapsing from the damage it did to itself. Into that wreckage walked a governor with a wooden leg wrapped in silver bands and a temper to match. He rebuilt the colony street by street. The wall that gave Wall Street its name, the first paved roads, the first government. He also tried to ban anyone who wasn't the right religion from worshiping. His own people fought him on it, and one small petition his colonists sent him is now considered an early ancestor of religious freedom in America. Then in the summer of 1664, English warships showed up and asked for the city. The governor wanted to fight. His own residents told him no. Not one shot was fired. The city changed hands, kept its Dutch street names, kept every business running, and barely noticed the difference. Except for one thing. Under the Dutch, slavery had existed but stayed loosely enforced, with paths out of it. Under the English, it became permanent law. By the early 1700s, a shocking share of New York households enslaved people, a higher share than anywhere else in the American North. A slave market opened at the foot of Wall Street. In 1712, a group of enslaved people rose up in revolt at midnight. The punishment that followed was designed purely to terrify. Out of that same era came something else. A printer who published the truth about a corrupt governor got arrested for it and won his case in court. That single trial became the foundation of freedom of the press in America. By the 1760s, New York had had enough of British taxes. Colonists put up a liberty pole. Soldiers tore it down. Colonists rebuilt it. Soldiers blew it up. Colonists built a fourth one wrapped in iron. Months before Boston's famous massacre, New York had already spilled the first blood of the Revolution in a street fight of clubs against bayonets. When war actually came, Washington nearly lost everything on Long Island, the biggest battle of the entire war, and a total defeat. Trapped with the water behind him, he pulled off one of the great escapes in military history. 9,000 men rode silently across the river in total darkness, hidden by a fog that rolled in at exactly the right moment. New York fell anyway. The British held it for 7 years, longer than they held any other American city. Prison ships anchored in the harbor killed more soldiers than every battle of the war combined. When the British finally left, a soldier climbed a greased flagpole by hand just to tear down their flag and raise the new one. New York became the nation's first capital. Washington took his oath right here, and then lost that title within a year. Half the city was still rebuilding from fire. What actually made it the greatest port on earth wasn't an accident. It was two decisions. First, a straight-line grid drawn across the whole island before most of it was even built. A plan for a city that didn't exist yet. Second, a canal, called a total waste of money by critics, that ended up connecting the entire American interior straight to New York Harbor. Shipping costs collapsed overnight. Every bit of grain and flour from the middle of the country started flowing through one port. The population exploded. 60,000 people at the start of the 1800s. 500,000 within 50 years. Waves of Irish immigrants fleeing famine, Germans fleeing failed revolutions, free Black Americans moving north. By mid-century, nearly half the city was born somewhere else. And alongside all that growth came the worst slum in the Western world, deadly street gang wars, and a level of poverty that shocked even visiting writers from Europe. Right before the Civil War, New York's own mayor stood up and suggested the city secede, not to join the South, but to stay neutral and keep trading cotton with everybody. The war made that idea treason overnight, and the same officials who'd approved it quietly buried it. 2 years later came the worst riot in American history. A new draft law let rich men buy their way out of service for a fee most workers couldn't afford. Furious mobs, many of them poor immigrants, tore through the city for 4 days straight. Black New Yorkers were hunted in the streets. An orphanage full of black children was burned to the ground. The children escaped only minutes before. Soldiers had to be pulled straight from the battlefield at Gettysburg to restore order. After the war, New York got rich fast, and corrupt just as fast. One political boss stole what would be hundreds of millions in today's money by inflating city contracts, and got caught only because a cartoonist kept drawing him as exactly what he was. At the same time, the city built its most iconic bridge, a project so dangerous the original engineer died before finishing it. His son was left disabled from the construction itself, and his son's wife ended up managing the final years of the build and became the first person to walk across it. Skyscrapers followed. So did a flood of new immigrants pouring through Ellis Island. Millions of them, rebuilding the city that immigrants had already built once. Many of those new arrivals ended up in garment factories working brutal hours behind locked doors. A fire in one of those factories in 1911 killed over 100 workers, mostly young immigrant women, and became one of the deadliest workplace disasters in American history, and the reason for the safety laws that followed. A subway opened in 1904 and changed everything. For the first time, people could live far from where they worked. The city surged uptown, and nowhere more than Harlem, where Black Americans fleeing the Jim Crow South built one of the greatest explosions of art, music, and literature in the country's history. Then came Prohibition, which New York simply ignored, tens of thousands of hidden bars operating in plain sight. Then came the crash of 1929, wiping out fortunes in hours and turning Fifth Avenue's old party streets into breadlines. And in the middle of the worst economic collapse in American history, the city built the tallest building on Earth in about a year. It sat half empty for years afterward. They called it, only half jokingly, the Empty State Building. After the Second World War, New York became the undisputed capital of the world. Finance, art, the United Nations, all of it centered here. Then one single unelected planner reshaped the entire city over 4 decades, building highways and bridges that modernized New York while displacing an estimated 250,000 residents, disproportionately Black and Latino families, with no power to stop it. By the late 60s, factories were leaving, the middle class was leaving, and landlords in the Bronx were literally burning their own buildings for insurance money. By the mid-70s, the city was so broke it couldn't pay its debts, and when it asked the federal government for help, the answer was no. But 2 miles from the burning Bronx, a teenager throwing a back-to-school party in his apartment building's rec room looped 2 records together in a way nobody had heard before. That single night is now recognized as the birth of hip-hop, the most influential music movement of the century, born in the most written-off neighborhood in the country. The 80s brought a crack epidemic and a murder rate that made the city feel unlivable. Within a few years, crime collapsed, investment poured back in, and Times Square went from a no-go zone to a tourist magnet. Then, on a clear September morning in 2001, 2 planes brought down 2 towers in under 2 hours, killing just under 3,000 people. Fire, war, occupation, riots, bankruptcy, terror. Every generation got its version of the ending. None of them wrote it. New York doesn't survive despite the chaos. It survives because the chaos never stops, and neither does the city.